Having a solid understanding of why it is you do what you do in your life is an understanding that far too few people actually have. Now, no matter who you are, you're gonna have an influence on those around you. Even if it's small, could be big, but you're gonna have some sort of influence. Whether that influence is positive or not so positive is entirely up to you. But somebody who lives their life without purpose, or without understanding the why behind what they're doing with their life, those kind of people, they're destined to fail, lose direction, and not have any control over their destiny. My purpose is what drives me to go to the gym every day, even when I do not feel like it. And it's not some sort of purpose that can be summed up in, well, I just don't want to be fat anymore. Because that's not really a purpose. Real, true purpose finds its roots far deeper than a shallow goal that you have today and could potentially abandon tomorrow. For me, the roots of my purpose, they start with my dad. If this is your first time here, I'm John Duffy, editor for the channel. In this series, I work to overcome decades of unhealthy lifestyle choices and bad habits so that I can lose weight, get fit, and become a hero of legend. That whole hero of legend part might sound silly out loud, especially if I intend for you to take it seriously, but I actually do intend for you to take it seriously. My weakness is actually a constant source of frustration. Frustration because weakness impacts my ability and limits my ability to change the world for the better. Not just for myself or for those around me, but for everyone. Stephen has said it before on this channel, strength is the virtue that allows all of the virtues to exist. And we can be talking about physical strength, mental strength, financial strength, because if you want to impact the world for the better, you've got to be strong. Weakness plus good intentions doesn't get you anywhere. Now, I've talked about this on the channel before, how I want to be a hero and help people, be stronger and less fat so that I can be there for not only my family, but anyone who needs help. And one time, this was years ago, a viewer asked, why? Why would you want to be a hero? That sounds exhausting, tiresome, way too much responsibility. And you know what? I totally get it, all right? It is exhausting. It is something that we see in heroes in fiction all the time. You take on that responsibility, it's not all fun and games. Many people already have enough on their plate without taking on the responsibility of other people that aren't even within their immediate circle. Taking on that extra responsibility is just more than they could possibly handle. And yeah, I get that, but it doesn't change the fact that it's what I want. So really, I couldn't answer that viewer's question. I didn't know how to answer why until last week. 2020 was a terrible year, and 2021 is off to a terrible start. And it got me thinking, man, what if I had been working and busting my ass off in the gym and in investing and whatever else 10 or 15 years ago? What if I had taken hold of my destiny and actually started working on it? I could be in a much, much better position right now, health-wise, financially, mentally, and maybe I'd even have the contacts to try and help other people. That is called regret. And last week, that regret made it really hard for me to get out of the car and into the gym. But then it all clicked. The answer to that question that somebody asked years ago. My inspiration comes from my dad. I remember that he worked both days and nights, meaning that it was, for a very long time, rare for me to even see him. But he wanted to be a part of our lives, despite the fact that he had to work so many jobs to keep us afloat. So, he gave me some comic books. It was actually from his old collection. He had comics from the 70s and the 80s, and he wanted to share them with me because it was his passion. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Legion of Superheroes, Justice League of America, all of these old comics of his were my introduction to the world of superheroes.
Oh no, that fat stack of autographs is falling into the fire!
And I loved it. I even taught myself how to read because I was tired of just looking at the pictures and not knowing what was going on, and having to ask my mom, what's this word? What's this word? What's this word? Was tiresome for both of us. So I applied myself and learned to read pretty early because I really wanted to know what was going on in those comics. I loved the idea of having superpowers and flying around to save the day. I would tie blankets around my neck and fly around. I'd go thwip, thwip, and pretend I was swinging through the living room and on the sidewalk where all the other kids would tease me. It wasn't cool to like superheroes yet. Then again, I don't know if I could get away with that now. But while it was all fantasy to me, my dad was out there saving the day in any way that he could. By day, he worked for a nonprofit that helped families that had lost somebody in the line of duty, and by night, he was out there teaching the snare drum to different Celtic pipe bands in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And these bands were more often than not extensions of police departments and fire departments. So whether he was making sure that suffering families were taken care of, or letting first responders indulge in the joy of music, he was helping people. He was living the life of a hero. And I want to include more specific stories about him in this video because it's been 17 years since he died. Then I realized I could ask two people that knew him better than I did and knew him longer than I did, and they would be my aunts, his sisters. One of my aunts told me of a time that she and my dad had just finished up a band gig. They were stopping at a McDonald's drive-thru before the long drive home. My dad orders 3 meals. Why did you order 3? My aunt asked. My dad doesn't say anything. He just drives around the corner after getting the food and pulls up to a homeless man he spotted on the way in there. And he gives him the 3rd meal. My aunt chews him out for this. And she's like, no, why would you do that? You know, you shouldn't just be giving food to people. That's a waste of money, blah, blah, blah. He smiles and says, I'm just doing what I had to do. It was the right thing to do, and that's all that mattered to him. And my aunt would soon find out that this was actually a regular thing for him. He would often get food for people that he saw on the street. If he saw somebody and he didn't have food and he had no cash, he would go to an ATM, withdraw $20, and just give that to the person who needed it. No wonder he was working so many jobs. My dad wasn't the kind of man to ask for help, but he was always ready to give it. My other aunt actually had a story about Dad and me that I had forgotten about. Around the time I turned 10, I developed anxiety problems. My dad got me in to see a therapist, and I spoke with her for a while. They put me on medicine, but I was still really anxious. And we realized it was only when I wasn't with him. If I was home with Mom, I was really scared. So, what he did, since I was homeschooled and could get away with this, was that he took me to work with him. So I would grab my school books, put them in a bag, and hop on the train with him to go to Grand Central Terminal, from where we would walk to the Colgate building. He'd sit at his desk doing his work. I'd sit at my desk right next to his doing my work. It was probably inconvenient for him, dragging along a slow kid to catch the train and showing up to work almost every day with a 10-year-old who was kind of in the way. But he did it because he knew I needed it, and it was a way he could help. It also allowed me to spend more time with him, which I was grateful for. So he was usually doing band practice with a different band every day of the week. So I would go with him twice a week. One of them had an Outback Steakhouse on the way there, and we didn't have any Outbacks near us, but we loved the wings. So every time on the way back, we would stop, get the wings, and then we'd go home and we'd share them. The other place had a giant TV because it was in a bar, and since it was after hours, the bartender would let me turn it on, and I'd get to watch the Justice League cartoon when it was airing, which was something I couldn't do at home because we didn't have cable. So that was actually really fun. But I got to spend a lot of time with him because he was trying to help. My dad was my hero for many, many reasons. When he did die, I didn't know what to expect next. Being a child, all I knew was that my dad was gone. I didn't know what kind of impact he had on the world around him until the day of his funeral. It was standing room only. There were people outside that couldn't even get into the church. We had so many people show up. There were more people than we could have counted there. People were flying in from Ireland to see him one last time. And police departments and fire departments showed up to mourn and pay their respects for everything he had done for them. In fact, we got a police escort. We didn't ask for any of this stuff. It just happened. The influence that he had on the world survived his own death. So much so that one of the bands he regularly worked with formed a new band for newcomers and new players called the Martin Duffy Memorial Pipe Band. Whenever I'm watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and we get to this one scene, I always think about my dad. The power of one man doesn't amount to much. But however little strength I'm capable of, I'll do everything humanly possible to protect the people I love, and in turn, they'll protect the ones they love. It seems like the least we tiny humans can do for each other. The thing is, though, the people my dad loved was everyone. It didn't matter your political beliefs or your religious thinkings or your opinions on the latest movies or whatever. Your race, your wealth, your gender, it mattered not. He loved everybody. And if he had the opportunity to be your hero in any situation, he would take it. And you could count on him. That is what I aspire to be like. In fact, I want to go beyond. Obligatory plus ultra joke. And to go beyond, I have to be strong. So I lift, and I squat, and I do cardio, and I do it even when I don't feel like it. Because this world needs a hero. So why do I want to be a hero? Well, much like my father, I can't stand seeing other people suffer. Even if they kind of deserve it. I don't want to see anyone suffer. And I've got a daughter now. So not just for everybody else, but for her especially, I want to make sure the future is bright. And that means making sure the world is still in one piece and doing better than it is now. So, to the person that asked years ago, why be a hero? It sounds exhausting. It is exhausting. But it's worth it. To me, at least. And I know to people out there watching right now. I'm John Duffy, and there are 44 weeks left.